Well, there's been a lot of talk about Formula One in South Australia, but I say, why wait till 2021? The Bend Classic has all the Formula One you could possibly need. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pit Lane here at the Bend Motorsport Park in beautiful South Australia. We've just completed day one of the 2020 The Bend Classic. It's been a ripper. And let's get to some Formula One cars, shall we? Because the largest gathering of Formula One cars in Australia actually running are here this weekend. We've got quite a collection underway with some repairs at the moment. Team BRM on the Dalara F189. This raced in the 1989 Formula One World Championship with the BMS Scuderia Formula One team. It was driven by Andrea De Cesaris, qualified 9th for the Australian Grand Prix that year. Ran as high as 3rd in the rain early on. Unfortunately, found the fence on Brabham Straight, Decateville Terrace to us South Australians, and unfortunately took no further part. The car was bought by Andre Bezuidenhout, a South African racer, and spent some time there. Came back here to compete in the Adelaide Motorsport Festival. It's been freshened up. It's good to go. It sounds sweet with the 3.5 litre Cosworth V8, and now owned by Sam Sheehan, based here at the Bend Motorsport Park. And it is just a stunning piece of Formula One machinery with great provenance at the Australian Grand Prix. If we duck in, Frankie Hodak behind the camera here today into the BRM garage, and we've got this crazy Lola T14221, this car owned by Brenton Craill. Now, you might be thinking, hang on, F5000, how does that qualify as a Formula One car? Well, it has actually started a couple of races, the Austrian and South African Grand Prix in 1969, and check out those names down the side there. Carl Haas was the man who first bought and purchased the car. Paul Newman has driven it, the great Frank Gardner, one of the great Aussie champions of our sport, and it's now come to South Australia. It's got quite a checkered life, this car, but it is a beast. Simon Hodge, the 2014 Gold Star winner, has been driving it this weekend and says it's a bit of an animal. I don't know if that's the car or the driver, but we'll move on with that. So BRM hard at work, a few little gearbox issues for the Dalara today, but they'll fix that for tomorrow. What about this beautiful piece of kit? Lola Larose LC 88 from the 1988 Formula One World Championship. This car also owned by Brenton Craill, based here in Adelaide. It is absolutely stunning. 3.5 litre Cosy DFZ engine screams away, and it's sounding better this weekend, actually, I think, than it ever has. This car, really interesting, driven by Philippe Alliot in the 1988 season. Wasn't a really successful car, unfortunately, for the Lola Larose team. They went through a couple of drivers that year. They had a few little political dramas as well, and actually finished 9th in the AGP, though it was a long laps down. Many laps down in that season, but it's a stunning bit of kit, isn't it? Quite a big tub for a car of its era, not quite as sleek and sharp as the Dalara next door, but it's a beautiful thing, and that Cosworth really sings. We'll stick our head into this next garage because there's a couple of really fascinating cars as well in here. Down the back is the Tallman TG185, and this is the precursor to the team that we now know as Renault, because it was once Benetton, and Benetton sponsored the Tallman team, and then it became Benetton in the 1986 Formula One World Championship season. It's a stunning bit of kit, big 1.5 litre turbocharged Hart 4-cylinder engine, massive amounts of horsepower, but massive amounts of lag with it. It was designed by Rory Byrne, actually, this car, who would go on to design Ferrari's best Formula One cars in the late 90s and 2000s, and that amazing period of success they had with Michael Schumacher. It was developed off the TG184, and a recent podcast actually with Stefan Johansson said it was a really, really good car with a really fundamentally good chassis. Engine perhaps let the side down a little bit, but this was a good car, and the genesis of the famous Benetton Formula One team. Behind that car now is the LC87 Lola Larose. So Lola, famous British firm, developed this car for the Larose team, French-based outfit. Cosworth DFZ V8, once again, it was the de rigueur engine from that time. But this was actually quite a successful car and actually scored quite a few podiums. 6 points, 3 points, I should say, a couple of sixth-place finishes for that team that season. It actually finished 5th in the Australian Grand Prix in 1987, but it wasn't nominated for points, so it didn't get any of them that weekend. But it's a beautiful thing. We love it. Lovely, restored. And Cosworth V8 should be mandatory in every single racing car because they're awesome. And Alistair here, who's enjoying a relaxing beverage at the end of a very busy day here at the Bend Motorsport Park. These big cars have been on track 3 times. enjoying it. Just have a look at this Ferrari-powered thing. It's not a Formula One car, but how good's this sports car? And one of the only ones thought to be built with the Ferrari V12, and it is just absolutely stunning. One more garage to go, and there's a stunning array of F1 cars here amongst 76 classic, modern and historic sports cars. And we dive into something really special. 1968 Brabham BT26, driven by Sir Jack, the great man, but quite poignantly given the events of the last week or two in Formula One racing, this was Frank Williams' first racing car. Bought it for the 1969 season, was driven by Piers Courage, the well-known British driver who tragically lost his life in a crash a couple of years later. But this was Williams' first race car. This was the genesis of the team that we now know as Williams Formula One. Finished second in the Monaco and US Grand Prix. Was Cosworth powered at Williams, but right now it's back to being powered by that iconic Repco Brabham engines. And Chris Keane, who owns it and drives it, tells me that's one of only a few engines produced for that season. It's a remarkable bit of kit. This is its public debut, the bell of the ball this weekend. It sounds extraordinary. It shows you the evolution too of the aero. This car, late 1960s to the Lola and the Dalara we saw before, and some 90s era Formula One just behind it, the Footwork Arrows F15 from the 1994 Formula One season. This was a pretty decent little Formula One car actually. Again, Cosworth V8 power, driven by Christian Fittipaldi. Not its original livery. The Footwork livery that year was based on a white livery with lots of bright colours on it, but a very, very cool thing. This car's been operating in South Australia for some time. It's a bit of a workhorse, but it's a really cool thing. And yeah, love it. Cosy V8 goes hard and driven very well by Josh Keane. Been battling a few fuel pressure issues, they tell me, this weekend, but possibly have got on top of it. So that's the look, Frank. It's a stunning day. We hope everyone's enjoyed themselves that came out to the Bend Classic today. Have a look at some of these cars before we sign off. Porsche 911 GT1. It's the only road-going version of the racing cars converted for road use. There are 18 race cars made, and this is the only one converted back to road use. It won 3 Canadian GT championships. It started Le Mans. You can see the Rolex 24-hour sticker on it. So it raced on the high banks of the Daytona road course as well. It's a staggering thing. It's been bought by a private collector here in Adelaide, so it's amazing this car's come to South Australia. Really, really cool thing, and one of the rarest cars in the world. And we'll finish off, speaking of South Australia motorsport, we swing around and see the Brabham BT62. It's the defending champions of the Classic. They hold the lap record on the West Circuit. They set it last year. Josh Keane is behind the wheel at the moment, doing a final few system checks at the end of a very busy Saturday. Resplendent in this bright green livery. I'd rate it. Love it. Stands out on the racetrack. You can see it from the other side of the road. Very, very cool. And this is the future of the sport. They've already sold cars. They're already racing in the UK, and they will be built right here in South Australia. The noise of this thing, just extraordinary. Josh looking nice and relaxed and comfortable inside as the Brabham boys go to work. So that's the scene from pit lane. It's been a staggering day. If you're coming out on Father's Day, we'd love to see you. There are no tickets. It is free entry to come in. Beautiful conditions expected. We'd love to see you here at this world-class motorsport facility at the Bend Motorsport Park, where real Formula One cars are racing in 2020. See you later.